All right, Tim, welcome.
Jason, thank you. Good to be here. Good to be back.
Podcast. Now, before we get going, we've got to talk about something special going on. What
What's that?
you always look beautiful and wonderful as a human being. But now you look even more beautiful because of the backdrop behind you.
Nice,
It's pretty
nice.
that's pretty snappy, I have to say.
You like that, huh? Yeah.
I do. I like it.
Well,
It's
new
working
brand,
for you.
got to put it out there.
New brand.
All right.
Tell
All
me
right.
tell me about the new brand. That's where we should start.
Oh, awesome. So, this brand is it's a professional look. It's sort of up the game a little bit from where we were before to now. Not only covers opportunities for marketing and connecting with people, but the whole look is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I've got a new website, new look and feel to that. Have some new testimonials and things that we haven't had before. It's looking sharp.
Nice.
Feel good about it. Got a team behind me. We're rolling. So it's good thing. Good things going on.
That's great. And so there's a new web address as well, right?
New web address. That's right. alccoaches.com. Yeah.
And your new
Short little
email too.
new email tim@alccoaches.com as opposed to
Nice.
the long one we had before. So
Applied
that's
Leadership Coaching LLC.com, which,
right.
yeah, so ALC coaches, that's going to be a little easier for people to remember for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Good. Well, it looks great.
So
Very, very impressive.
thank you to you and your team for putting it together.
Hey, I'm just,
Appreciate you guys have done a wonderful job. Appreciate it.
thanks. Well, you're looking great. So
Thank
it's working for you. And I like how you've color coordinated your yellow with the yellow. That's very nice. Okay, we've had some really good, specifically really great feedback on the last podcast. And now that your podcasts are on the new website, we'll be continuing to add those there and then also on the YouTube channel. So we'll continue to look for those. We hit a sweet spot, I think, right around 30 minutes on the last podcast. We're going to shoot for that again. We may go just a touch over today because we've got a pretty good amount of content to talk about, but we'll be as close to 30 minutes as possible. And then we've got a special segment at the end that Tim and I want to share with everybody that we're going to start doing on every podcast. We're going to have a pick of the podcast at the end that will cover things like, things that we're reading, things we're into, things that we feel could be helpful based on either what we're talking about on that podcast or maybe even just in general based on Tim's coaching experience. So I look forward to doing that as well. All
Sounds
right.
good.
So today we're going to talk about distractions. And that's the topic that we're going to cover a little bit and see how that goes. So do you want to just kick us off with, give us a definition of distractions as you sort of approach it with your clients and talk about what it means to people in business.
Sure. Thank you, Jason. Yeah. So distractions. Wow. It's really something that is so prevalent. It's in all of our lives. It's in every aspect of our lives, at home, at work, socially, out. We are so connected, and there's so many different things that are pulling us away. But as I was thinking about this topic, I looked it up in Webster, and Webster Dictionary defines distractions as something that pulls you away from something else. So, there's no necessarily any kind of tag as to one thing's more important than another, but it's just something that pulls you away from something else. And as you go, another definition is that there's an emotional change or challenge, extreme agitation in emotions or actions. And I love this when I love it when they go back to the root word. So if we look at Latin, the word dis or the phrase dis means apart, and then trahere, which would be the tractions part, is to drag. So really to drag apart. And sometimes that's what it feels like, these distractions. that we're being dragged apart. We're being split. And sometimes it's pretty hard to recover from these distractions that occur in our lives. Sometimes it totally disrails us from what we were doing. So I think, as that is sort of a backdrop and maybe the foundation of what we're going to talk about today, some things to keep in mind. So pulling us apart, dragging us apart. Yeah. Love that.
It's great. And what it leads me to is a question about what everybody likes to suggest that they're great at, which is multitasking, right? And everybody's great at multitasking until it becomes a distraction. So do you talk about that a lot with your clients, and does that come up quite a bit?
Absolutely, because everybody, the interruptions, the multitasking, it would just pulled apart from getting our tasks done. But funny thing that the idea of multitasking in our minds, or at least in my mind, many years ago, was that this is a real thing. But multitasking is a misnomer, because what really it is that we're just able to move back and forth between tasks very, very quickly. So we're not doing two things at once necessarily, because our brain, we can't read and watch a movie at the same time.
Right.
We can't do two tasks that involve cognitive thinking at once. And so this idea of saying that we're great multitaskers, it just means that we're able to move back and forth between things quickly. Now, the question is it effective? And are we getting more done because we're moving back and forth so quickly between tasks? The research shows no, absolutely not. We are less productive when we multitask. We think just the opposite, but we're less efficient. We make more mistakes, and it's exhausting too.
Right.
It drives fatigue through us when we have so much going on at one time. Maybe sometimes there's 3 or 4 things that are happening in front of us. Why, to try to keep all that straight, of course we would make more mistakes.
Right. So that leads to focus, right? And being able to give your brain the ability to focus on what its main task is, so that you can get the most out of that particular moment, obviously.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Focus is what it's all about. And when you can focus, what you can accomplish is tremendous.
Right. So the key to that then is when people say, "Oh, I'm a great multitasker," how do you approach that when you're coaching people when they say, "Oh, one of my greatest skills is I have the best ability to multitask"? How do you get to the bottom of that and figure out how to coach around that? Because it's become a thing that people wear as a badge of pride at this point.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think there are probably certain instances where, yeah, you can escape for a sec or a minute or something and get something accomplished or whatever. But to have this as a regular routine is a pretty tough thing to do. And I think the idea that this really goes to, if this is your all day long, where's the time to really have that cognitive thinking and the sitting back and am I really doing the right thing? And to have this, manager or leader moment or time when you can actually think about what's happening out there and what is it that you have to dissect and process through.
Right.
It's so that's really where we go. We talk through focus. We talk about, what are we trying to accomplish? What are your priorities in your life? And are you really able to accomplish those day by day? And I think one of the key indicators is you have a to-do list, if you will. Well, I never get my to-do list done. Well, why not? Well, there's so many things that interrupt. Well, so what's the important part here? Where are your priorities? And so then there begins the journey of getting to the bottom of what's important for you to get accomplished. And what are those things that are taking you away? So that prioritization discussion is typically where we end up.
And with prioritization, what are some of the other things that you talk about with people? So that may be one of those things is by setting priorities, but what are some of the other things that you use as coaching skills to help people get away from the thought process that multitasking is a benefit?
Well, so I think some of the tools that are out. So first of all, you got to convince them that they've got something going on, or they have to understand or agree. Yeah, this is sort of an issue for me.
Right.
It's sort of like, I'm not addicted to anything. Well, you have to recognize that you're addicted before you're able to deal with it, right? I mean, and it's the same kind of concept. And you think about it, these habits that we have are somewhat of an addiction, right? We can't necessarily break away from it, even though it might not be good for us. It might not make us feel good. We might be tired. We might be making more mistakes, but wow, this is the way I do my work.
Right.
And you think about this thing, right? And people say, I'm not addicted to this. I would beg to differ.
Right.
What if you were to take a fast from this for 10 days?
Yeah, that would be very difficult.
Yeah, that would be hard. We're tied to it. Yeah. I think the statistics are people check their phones, I think it's something like 150 times per day. 150 times per day. That's crazy.
There's probably nothing else in your life that you do 150 times per day other than maybe blink. I mean, and that's obviously more than that, but I mean, that's something to put in perspective, is you probably do nothing else that many times a day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're probably right. And if you think about an 8-hour day, 480 minutes, that's about every 3 minutes we're checking our phone.
Right. What's interesting about that, in regards to sort of the multitasking is, our office is sort of an open environment. And so people are distracted just based on, if somebody walks in the office door, there's a distraction there. But one of the things that I notice increasingly more and more is everybody has a sound on their computer, and every single time it dings that there's an email that comes into an email box, or they get an instant message from Hangouts or from Skype, it's almost like a Pavlovian response. Doesn't matter what they're doing. If they're, sitting very dedicated, working on something on their desk, or they're working on a project on the screen, if that little message bar comes across on your computer and it says, oh, you have a new email, so many people automatically click on that. They open up the email, they start responding to whatever that email is, or the response, the message, and then they close it, and then it takes them X amount of time to get back focused on what they were working on prior to. And I think we're in a culture right now of that interruptions, because that's what you were kind of getting at earlier, is that interruptions are just accepted at this point. There's, on every single device that I have, there is a very quick feature, and I'm going to show it to you guys actually on my phone. If you look at my home screen, if you swipe down from the top, there's a little moon button. And that moon is a do not disturb. But I'll bet you that 95% of the people have no idea that you can have your phone on, but just turn that do not disturb on and it won't ding. It won't pop up messages in front of you. It'll take a phone call, but it'll take that phone call to voicemail. And so there's things that you can do on your computer, on your phone, to keep you focused without having those distractions if you really need to get something done.
Yeah. Oh, and we do it to ourselves.
Right.
We distract ourselves all day long by these tools, by not, like you say, turning it to do not disturb, or we allow some other thing going on to distract us, and we go right there to it.
Right.
And it's crazy. And so, you think about, how much am I not getting done?
Right.
I set myself up to not be able to focus on tasks to get things done throughout the day.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working in the corporate world, if I felt like some days were a complete distraction. The entire day was distractions or interruptions. I got nothing done.
Right.
Wow, that talk about frustrating. And then that leads to morale issues, and I'm tired. I'm not getting my work done. I don't have value.
Right.
I'm not right. And it's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
But, in large part, we can stop it. We can control these things. Some things we can't, but some things we do have the ability to change it up.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that's just so easy that people don't even really think about is if you're working on a project and you've got a deadline and you've got to get it done, just don't open your email program. I mean, just don't open it. Don't turn on your messaging. Just keep it closed for an hour while you work on your project, and then it won't interrupt you because there's nothing coming across. So just little things that are so simple. If I know I've got to get something out and I've really got to focus, that's the first thing I do is I turn off everything.
Yep.
And I put my head down and I start working because, I have an iPad, I have an iPhone, I have 3 devices on my desk for testing for web things. An Android device, a Windows machine, an Android phone. Literally, if I turn my camera around, you would see all of these things on my desk. And this is just my home office, much less, my office at the office. But I mean, if I look down, I could sit here and just be a spectator all day and just watch things bing and move and come, So you have to remove those distractions, I think, and stop the interruptions to be more productive. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's productivity, right?
Productivity, absolutely. And if you think about it, what if we did that every day? What if every day I shut down my computer, all my stuff, my technologies, if you will.
Right.
I've shut those down for 6 of the 8 hours that I'm working.
Wow.
And I only done. Oh my gosh, yeah. I only did email in the morning and then maybe in the afternoon, just for an hour. And that's all I did. Just focus for an hour on email, and then I shut it down and do my other work.
Right. So talk about expectations then, as that pertains. We're in a world of immediate responsivity. Is that a word?
It sounds like a great word.
Responsivity, which is if Tim sends me an email, I feel the responsibility to respond to you as soon as I get that email.
Mm-hmm.
Should that be expected in the workplace? Or should there be some rule set that says, you've got 24 hours to respond to an email, and if it's anything that's more important than that, get up out of your seat or pick up the phone and call that person or walk over to their office and talk to them, or walk over to their cubicle, or, go to the next building, do something. Is there a way for organizations to set those parameters so that it takes some of the pressure off of people to not have to respond in a moment's notice?
Wow, so that's a big question, because if you think about the volume of email that some people get, I'm working with some people that get 200-300 emails per day.
Yeah.
And to try to be able to respond to that kind of thing is nuts.
Right.
So there ought to be, in the companies that I'm working with, we're setting rules, right? So if you don't get an answer or a solution within 2 emails back and forth, you pick up the phone. If you have to have a response, you send a text or you call somebody.
Right.
And you don't do the email thing.
Right.
And then there's all sorts of email etiquette around making it more efficient for the user, the recipient of the email.
Right.
And so there's all sorts of little things that you can do to make it more efficient and more effective for people. But this idea of expectation to get back to somebody quickly, I think everybody sort of needs this, depending upon their situation. They need to set their own boundaries, what those are. But it's important to set boundaries. Yeah, I'm going to respond to everybody within 24 hours. Or I'm going to only respond to those that are critical, that I have a decision-making part in it. Otherwise, I may not ever respond to your email.
Right.
Or, hey, I'm only looking at email twice a day. If you need me quicker than that, you need to connect with me in a different way.
Right. Yeah,
right?
That's
So
a good point.
You create these expectations. If you're a manager for the people that work for you, if you're a service base and you got clients out there, this is how I'm going to respond. Okay, just so you know, I'm not here every minute looking at my email.
Right.
So know that it's going to take me 24 hours to get back, or 48 hours, or whatever it is.
Right.
But I think it's really important to set the expectations. And then on the other side of that, you have to be disciplined to follow those procedures that you've set up.
Right.
Because as soon as you start going all day long on email, then people are going to say, oh, he's not doing that. Forget
Right.
it.
Yeah. You know this, Tim, but about a year and a half ago, our group, our company, decided to quote unquote not work on Fridays, as far as our clients know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that on this podcast. Whoops. We may work, but we have an unspoken rule on our team, and that is no emails with clients on Fridays, no phone calls with clients on Fridays, and no meetings with clients on Fridays, with the exception of if it's an emergency, which we're always available if it's an emergency, or if it's something that everybody in the group agrees is a required thing for us to do, and everybody has to be involved in that decision. Because the first time, to your point, someone breaks protocol, then it's a watershed. Everything just kind of happens. So real quick story. A client of ours, longtime client since the day we opened, we've had a standing meeting with them Tuesday afternoon at 3:00 every Tuesday. And he said to us, look, Tuesday's not working. Let's go to Thursday. So we went to Thursday, made those changes, and they're a very important client. They're one of our top 5 clients. Well, he missed a couple of those meetings, and then we were on a meeting with him, and he said, look, I'm going to have to switch to Fridays because it's the only day that we're really open. And I had to tell him, I said, look, you know this, and he knew it. We don't schedule client meetings on Friday. And I had to sort of really put down the screws and say, we just can't do it, because as soon as we do it one time, it basically blows the whole thing out of the water. But just making decisions about something like that, it gives the people on my team a full day of work or a full day of downtime if they need to refresh their brain, whatever it may be. But it's been so valuable for us, both in setting expectations for our clients, but also in having to be disciplined, that it's made a big difference in the morale in our office, that everybody feels like they've got a camaraderie about it. And I think that's something that everybody else should really think about doing. So
nice. So let me ask you a question. What about the mental health? How has that affected your mental health by having that, whether you use it or not, is one thing, but just having that day available, what's that done for your...
It makes all the difference in the world. And I'll tell you the biggest reason. We are a service company, but we're first and foremost a creativity company. We're an advertising agency and a branding company. And so we're expected all day long to come up with ideas. And it would be like asking a marathon runner or a weightlifter or somebody that does something to exercise 5 days out of the week for 9 straight hours, right? Your brain isn't any different from any other muscle in your body. And whoever it was that came up with this idea that you have to work Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day with an hour break in between, and whoever set those rules and regulations, and you only get Saturday, and then on Sunday night you have to prepare for the rest of the week that's coming up, that doesn't leave a whole lot of time for a brain to recoup, to go on a hike, to do something different that frees your brain from always thinking about the work you're doing. And what we have found is by compressing our work week, 10 hours per day, or focusing at different times. Like there's times when I'll come into my home office at 10 o'clock at night and work on something for an hour because it came to me and I want to get it down on paper. those things have made all of the difference in the world to every employee that works in our company. And I've seen a huge mental health shift with us where if someone just feels like they need to take a Friday off and drive somewhere with their family or go to DMV to get their license done when they don't feel like they're taking time off of work, that's their thing.
Yeah.
So it's been huge. It's been huge.
So let me add on to that if I could. So I think
Sure.
this idea of taking breaks, right? I mean, it applies directly to the idea of distractions and interruptions and things like that. I need to have my focused time so I can get work done, but I also need to take breaks and take time out. Now, distraction isn't necessarily a break, and neither is an interruption because now I'm working on something else. Maybe I'm shifting my focus of the task, but I'm still, it's not a break. And so, one of the best ways to sort of get yourself into a place where you can work effectively is to be able to take those breaks. And that's a critical part. If you think about an athlete with the physical body, high intensity training, you go super hard, super fast, and then you take a break. Super hard, super fast, and then you take a break, right? So you're just slowing down, and then you get your energy back, right? It's the same kind of concept. But, this idea of the interruption, I'd like to just take a few minutes to talk about that. There's 4 different kinds of interruptions that we sort of deal with. One is this, or those that we have control over and those that we don't have control over. So those that we have control over, wow, take control of it, right? Don't interrupt yourself. Figure out ways to get that focus time. Those that we don't have control over fall into a couple of categories. One where it's annoying, right? They're just no fun. If people are coming in, they're interrupting you. You don't have control over somebody coming in and barging in. Hey, Doug, you got a minute? Let me just take a minute. Yeah, right. You know how that goes, right? Half an hour later or whatever. And then the other type is that we don't have control over are those that we also enjoy, right? Those that are fun. And so, well, maybe you do want to enjoy those. Hey, you want to go to lunch? Well, I'm right in the middle of something, but yeah, that sounds great. But there are some parameters, some things that you can create, right? These expectations. I can have office time, open time for people. Hey, I'm going to be available from 11 to 12 to sit down and chat, or 8 to 9 in the morning. Come in and talk to me. I'm available. But from 9 to 10, 9 to 11, my door's shut, phone's off, I'm focused. I don't know if it has to be that structured, but creating those expectations for people are I think of great value. The other part about our time that we have, that time that we have control over, right? Instead of allowing these interruptions to happen, shut it down. Shut down the interruptions. And then you have this, I guess, available time now for yourself. That time you need to prioritize. And there are 1,000 things that you might have to get done, but you need to prioritize it. And I like the phrase good, better, and best. Most all the stuff that we're doing is good, right? I mean, it's good stuff. It wouldn't be on our list if it wasn't. But then there's better stuff that we could be doing. But what's the best stuff? What are the things that are going to be most productive, are going to be of most value to me or to my organization, whatever. And so we need to prioritize it in such a way that we're doing those best things always. And those are the things that are rising to the top. We're spending our time and energy on those things that are of most importance. So part of this process is obviously, you could put it under time management or even under commitment management, if you want to call it. These are my commitments that I've made. I got to get them done. Probably a better way to look at it. But these concepts of dealing with our distractions and our interruptions. I think another part about this is the offline stuff. Before I go in to get interrupted, before I get sort of bounced around, if you will, what can I do to prepare myself? There are lots of tools and techniques that we can use. Exercise, eating right, eating healthily, right? Eating in a healthy way, getting enough sleep. Well, sometimes we can't get enough sleep because these distractions are going around so much. But as we prioritize and we get those distractions away, it's amazing the clarity that comes to our mind. And then there's another tool, I call it mindfulness techniques, things that are sort of um, activities, if you will, that help to connect the mind and the body. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. We can do this in lots and lots of different ways. Yoga is a great mindfulness technique, right? It's just a way to stretch and breathe and think about stretching and just focus on the body. And sometimes, though, that might take some time. Exercise takes time. We don't always have the time available to go take a half an hour, although I highly recommend it because, boy, what a great way to prepare for the day. But this idea of mindfulness can be very simple, and a technique of just breathing, just taking 3 minutes out of your day and breathing is a technique that, and focus on breathing. That's all you do. 3 minutes, you set a clock, you just let your mind focus on the breath, in and out, even if you have to count the breaths. Don't let these other thoughts come in. Just stay with the breath. And it's amazing what will happen as you do that. Just opens up yourself to a lot of possibilities. So those are some activities and actions that I think are valuable to think about when dealing with these distractions.
Yeah, those are great. Those are great ideas. One of the things that you and I have talked about in the past are the cost of distractions. What does it cost both the employee and the company? Do you want to spend just a minute or two on that?
Wow. Yeah, I've got a couple of statistics here that are unbelievable to me. We already mentioned 150 times a day we look at the phone. The average time spent working on tasks before we're interrupted in the corporate world, this blew my mind. 1 minute and 15 seconds. That's the average time that I get to focus on something. And if you think about in an open office environment, like you said, the computers are dinging and buzzing, people's phones are going off, people are coming up and ask if you have a minute. I can see an hour and 15 or 1 minute and 15 seconds is about right.
Yeah,
you're right. It's constant. It's constant. Let alone us looking at our phone and all the time. Another statistic around this. So after an interruption, research shows it takes us 25 minutes to get back to where we were. That's huge. So if the interruption takes a half an hour, it's another 25 minutes before I get set back to my thought process, back to where I was, back to what I was thinking, and charging forward. What a waste. So almost 50% of the time. So 3 to 4 hours per day is lost as a result of these interruptions.
And what does that equate to in dollars, do you think?
Oh,
you actually have the number.
I've got it. It's $588 billion in the U.S. economy every year. $500 billion.
That's crazy.
I can't even fathom that amount of money.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Wow. Okay. So the big answer or the big question is, and we've talked about change already in one of our other podcasts, but change is hard, right?
Yes, it is.
Corporate culture, personal habits, expectations of your superior bosses or your peers that you work with, expectations of your clients, of your customers. How do you change? Because it almost seems insurmountable in where we are as a culture right now. Everybody is just doing this, and how many people do you drive by and just glance over out of the corner of your eye and they're on their cell phones while they're driving? How do we change this? What is your, I mean, it's one person at a time, I know, but what's your perspective on that? How do we change?
Well, so I think the best way to deal with this, to manage it, is to hire a coach.
Hmm. Really?
Yeah, hire a coach.
I agree with you, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, right?
But in lieu of that, or in addition to that, certainly there are lots of things that we can do. First off, we got to accept that it's an issue for us, right? Once we understand that, yes, it is an issue. It's dragging me down. It's pulling me away from the things that are priority. That's the number one thing. Knowing that I've got a problem and I got to deal with it, right? So once I accept that, I can then jump in. And
Right.
I think there's lots of little things that we can do. One, you know, do the most effective stuff. Do your most effective, or the tasks that are most critical. Do those first. Whatever those happen to be throughout your day, focus on those, because those interruptions may come.
Right.
And so try to get a good start, a head start on these kinds of things early. Um, this idea of email twice a day, it's sort of called batch processing,
Hmm.
right? Just chunk it out. This is the time I'm going to do this. This is the time I'm going to do that.
Right.
And create those opportunities and then stick to it. Um, you know, we talked about this. Leave the blank spaces. Leave those times available to think. Even if you don't have to have a deadline, don't have to have a deadline to do this.
Right.
Just, hey, I'm going to shut down for 1 hour every day, and I'm
Yeah.
just going to think about those things that I need to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah.
Um, as part of that, you might have to go off the grid, like you were saying.
Right.
Recalibrate yourself. Figure out what priorities are. Do that every day. Get off the grid every day. Shut down. Just think, prioritize, make your lists, figure out those things that you have to do. And I think my ultimate perspective on this is that less interruptions, less multitasking, or task switching, I guess you could call it. It creates a clarity of thought, a clear mind. We sleep better. We're able to have more strategic thinking. We can accomplish more. We're less fatigued. All those things are part of it. And what does that lead to? In my mind, it leads to happiness, right?
Right.
Because
Which we all can use.
yeah, I'm feeling better. I'm able to enjoy the other parts of my life when I can manage, if you will, all these things that are going on around me in
Right.
a way that's productive and positive for myself.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. So we've talked about a ton today. We're right at around 40 minutes coming up on it. I still want to get to our picks. Um, One of the things that I think we should probably do is to really ask people to give some feedback. Go to the
Would love.
YouTube channel. Put in some of the tips that you guys think that are out there watching this that you've used to keep distractions to a minimum in your daily work life, because you and I have a lot of experience of the day-to-day things that we're exposed to, but there's a ton of ideas out there. There's a ton of books. There's a ton of thoughts that can help people. So there's a community, if you will, of people that are watching these podcasts now, and so I'd like for people to, if they wouldn't mind, step up and do some of that. And then most importantly, I would urge you to reach out to Tim, because again, Tim's given us some really important tools that have really helped. So anyway, I think some of the content that you've given us today really makes me think and reevaluate sort of where I want to head with one of my days. And if you don't mind, that would be a segue into our picks of the podcast.
Nice.
And so my pick this week is it's something that I do for myself, and I think everybody owes it to themselves to do something for yourself once a week. So what I do is I give myself an hour a week in my work schedule. I set a meeting with myself. And that may sound ridiculous, but what I do is I go on my calendar, and you can do it at the same time every week, or you can change it every week depending on what your schedule looks like. But I put an hour on my calendar every week that's just for me, and it says meeting with me, right? And basically the meeting with me is sitting down and prioritizing and going through the things that I know I may not get to, the 5-minute things that only take 5 minutes, but fitting those 5 minutes in amongst all the other things are not always easy. So what I'll do is I may have a list of, or in my head, 10 things that I have to do, or 5 things that I have to do that only take about 5 minutes. And I'll go in and I'll get those done. And the load that takes off of my brain, that allows me to refocus on the things that are the bigger things that I have to take care of. Sometimes just checking off the little things, to your point of priority. Sometimes you don't even get to those little things, but those little things add up to be pretty heavy at some point. And so being able to take that time for myself, and if a client calls and says, hey, can you meet at 2 o'clock on a Thursday? I may say, sorry, I'm booked at that time. How about 3 o'clock? And the client says, oh, fine, that's cool. 3 o'clock's fine. I'm open. And so I don't feel like I'm taking anything away as long as I'm giving an opportunity to do another time. But it's made a huge difference. And it's something that I started maybe 8 or 9 years ago in my career. Somebody gave me the idea to do it. It wasn't my original idea. And I've been doing it every single week for about 8 years. And it makes a huge difference in my ability to just close something off during the week for myself and to just stay focused for that little bit of time. But you can knock a lot of things out in an hour if you stay focused and you get it done. So that would be my pick, is to make a meeting with yourself once a week. That's my pick.
Excellent. Nice. So you're letting go of something, but you're moving into something. What a great way to go, right? And that's how we progress. We got to let go of something to be able to move forward. And I love that. That's cool. Awesome. Great pick. So my pick of the podcast, short and simple and sweet. 3 minutes a day. That's all it is. Just 3 minutes a day. Do it 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week, 7, whatever, is to do a mindfulness technique. And I'm picking the breathing process, right? Just for 3 minutes, you sit in a comfortable position, arms relaxed, your legs are relaxed. You're just sitting there and you just close your eyes and set your timer first. Close your eyes and then just breathe in and out. And you feel the breath going in and feel the breath going out. Sort of watch your chest or your stomach rise as it comes in and out if you want. But you focus on the breathing. And all these thoughts are going to come into your head. I mean, it happens, right? We can't stop them. They just come. But as soon as you notice there's a thought, you just let it go. And then you stick with the breathing, go back to the breathing. I find it useful to count from 1 to 20. Each breath in is 1, and then in again is 2, and you go up to 20, and then you do it backwards. That's about a little bit less than 3 minutes, but it's right around that time frame. And I'll tell you, I come out of that, I'm relaxed. I feel open. I feel grounded and centered. And what a great thing to do. You can do that in the middle of the day, beginning of the day, end of the day, whatever it is, just to get you in a good place so that you can handle all that junk that happens throughout the day.
Right. That's awesome.
Again, letting go of 3 minutes, but you're pushing into something that's going to be really valuable for you as you go forward.
And it's also not just for your mind, but it's also for your health. I mean, we are a society of shallow breathers. Yeah. And breathing, it takes stress away. It takes away anxiety. Absolutely. It fuels your body with oxygen, which allows your blood to flow better. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why that's beneficial. It's funny, I have my watch, my Apple Watch, and my watch, although it distracts me quite a bit, it also reminds me to breathe 3 times a day. I have it set, and it says just breathe a minute for 3 times a day. And what it does is it has a little flower that goes up and you breathe with it, and then it goes down and you breathe, and it taps you on your wrist for the time when you have to breathe in. And it just, that reminder for me, and And it could just be a coincidence, but it's usually when I'm kind of stressed out. It usually says, "Oh, time to breathe." So maybe it's just the right time every day. I don't know. But even if you have to use a tool like that, there are some good ones on apps for your phone too.
True.
That are, there's some that are called Calm and some other ones, but it's so good for you. So I agree with you. I think that's a hugely valuable tool. And what a great thing to do. Again, both of the things we picked are for you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
They're for you. They're not for other people.
Yeah.
I've asked you to take 50 minutes out of your day. Tim's asked you to take 3 minutes. So I guess you win. But but what we're saying is everybody has to take care of themselves before they can take care of other people and do the things for other people that help other people get things done. So those are two awesome picks, I think, that can really help.
Absolutely.
All right. Once again, you're looking great over there, pal.
Too.
Yeah. I look forward to our next podcast. We're getting ready to come into the holidays now, so like to do one obviously before we get to Thanksgiving, and then maybe one before Christmas. And wow, man, we've got like 6 or 7 before the end of the year, which is a good accomplishment, I think, on our end. And if people are enjoying these, please leave comments and let us know how you're enjoying them. Reach out to Tim. If you need help or you want some coaching opportunities. You want to remind everybody again how to reach out to you, Tim?
Sure. Hey, you go out to the website, alccoaches.com, or you can email me at tim@alccoaches.com. And awesome. Hey, love to get any feedback that you've got. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Tim. Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks, Jason. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.